Archaeology News, the news you can trust.
Welcome to Into the Dust Archaeology, where I, your host Jason, have been gone for quite a long while. I was doing some digging up in northern England, almost Scotland really, but more about that in an upcoming video. For today, we're going to be digging into some archaeology news that broke while I was gone. And our first story is so juicy it's practically dripping with 2,600-year-old olive oil. Buckle up, because we're headed to central Italy, to San Giuliano, about 43 miles northwest of Rome, in the hilly heart of what was once Etruria. And it was here that a Baylor University-led team just hit the archaeological equivalent of a Vegas jackpot, a pristine, unlooted Etruscan tomb. Now you remember the Etruscans, right? We devoted a whole episode to them last month. Basically, they were the bosses of ancient Italy before the rise of Rome, and if you recall, the mainstay of their archaeology are their chambered tombs, which litter the landscape in their Tuscan stomping grounds. But the difference with this one? Yep, you heard me, it was unlooted. In Italy, where looting tombs has basically been the national sport since the Romans were dancing around in togas. In fact, to give you an idea how rare this is, this tomb is the only one of its kind that has ever been excavated with modern techniques. And this particular tomb, carved out of the bedrock like some kind of cozy subterranean Airbnb, was discovered by the San Giuliano Archaeological Research Project, or SCARP, which actually kind of sounds like some sort of bodily emission.
Who are you?
Barf!
Not in here, mister. This is a Mercedes.
Actually, however, it's a fancy collab between Baylor University, the Virgil Academy in Rome, and the local town of Barberano Romano. Now here's the kicker. This tomb was sealed. As in, nobody's been in here since the Etruscans were arguing over who gets that last amphora of wine kind of sealed. Inside, they found 4 skeletons chilling on stone beds because apparently, even in death, those Etruscans needed some serious furniture, though I can't vouch for how ergonomic that would have been. Surrounding them, over 100 grave goods. We're talking ceramic vases with geometric flair, iron weapons for that warrior chic, bronze bling, and get this, delicate silver hair spools, because nothing says eternal rest like a killer dew.
Damn, baby, what you do to your hair?
Orlando, you like it? It's autumn sunrise.
Now I know the photos you're seeing are only of the pottery, but that's all I could really find. Let's take their word that the other stuff was found too. David Zori, the head honcho of this dig and a Baylor professor, called it a rare find for Etruscan archaeology. No kidding, David. Most Etruscan tombs in this region have been looted harder than a Black Friday sale ever since the Roman times. But this tomb, untouched. It's basically like finding a time capsule to Rome's older, artsier sibling before it got steamrolled in the Roman-Etruscan wars. And what's really cool about this project is the teamwork. This isn't just a bunch of academics with trowels and superiority complexes. SCARP's got archaeologists, art historians, geologists, and even Baylor undergrads getting their hands dirty, so it's a whole team effort. Preliminary analysis suggests the 4 skeletons might be 2 male-female pairs, but we're still awaiting the CSI Archaeology lab results to confirm that. Meanwhile, the artifacts recovered are giving us a front row seat to Etruscan burial rituals. And if other burials are any guide, think less mummy's curse and more, let's send you to the afterlife with enough swag to impress the gods. The team's now deep in analysis mode, but if other projects are any guide, we unfortunately could be waiting even decades for the publication to arrive.
I'll wait. See them.
So why does this matter so much? After all, from what we can see from those pictures, we've definitely found more amazing Etruscan tombs. However, recall, this will be the first one found fully intact that we are able to totally analyze using the most modern scientific techniques. Think electron microscopy, DNA, mass spectrometry, sediment analysis, the whole works. So who knows what secrets this tomb might yield as a result of all of that analysis. All right, our next story brings us to a city I know well, London, England, where I can report the largest jigsaw puzzle ever found has been solved. We're going to Southwark, to be exact, to the construction site of the Liberty of Southwark, meant to be a high-end office complex. Now, before we get started, I must say it's not exactly surprising that we'd find old stuff right here. This is just south of London Bridge, which, though the current version was built in 1973, first began its life with the original Roman bridge starting in 50 AD, so almost 2,000 years ago. Moreover, this area is right next to Borough Market, which has served as a market since at least 1014, according to 12th century Icelandic writer Snorri Sturluson, who, though he sounds kind of like a cousin of Sleepy the Dwarf, is actually a reliable source as medieval writers go, and he's cited by pretty much all of the contemporary historians who study this time. And the archaeology goes back even further than 1014. There was known to be a Roman settlement associated with the bridge, and in recent years there have been plenty of Roman finds in the area. Anyway, so we're in the Southwark construction site in 2021, and a construction crew is busy breaking ground for those fancy new offices when it stumbles upon a pit filled with thousands of shattered plaster fragments. Not exactly the kind of treasure you'd expect to find in an ancient Roman town, right? It would be like finding a landfill full of ancient IKEA furniture pieces, but without the instructions. But these aren't just random bits of junk. They're actually the remains of a vibrant wall fresco from a swanky Roman villa like you find the remains of all over the Roman world. This one got demoed before the year 200 AD. It's like HGTV Roman style.
All right, boys, let's do some demo today. Woo!
Now enter Han Lee, the Museum of London Archaeology's resident puzzle wizard. Or actually, he's probably more like their expert on Roman buildings. Anyway, this guy spent 3 months piecing together these delicate fragments, which were jumbled up worse than my dating history. All in all, he put thousands of pieces back together again, some of which were quite delicate and friable.
I think we have a major pileup at the fryer.
There is a fryer traffic jam.
No. Friable does not mean easily fried. It's another fancy archaeology term for crumbly. Anyway, let's talk about what he found. These frescoes covered 20 walls of what was basically Beverly Hills, ancient London. We're talking bright yellow panels, because apparently Romans were all about that mustard aesthetic, mixed with fake marble and a pinkish color meant to imitate Egyptian porphyry to flex their wealth. Now, this word porphyry sounded pretty familiar to me, so I looked it up. It's an adaptation of the Greek word for purple, porphyra, which also lent its name to porphyria, a disease of the kidneys that turns the urine purple and is believed to have been the cause of the madness of King George III. But anyway, I digress. In the black borders between the yellow panels, there are also motifs like fruit, flowers, birds, and even some depictions of stringed instruments called a lyre.
Bring me a small lyre.
Small liar, small liar. I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I wasn't even there. I was at a friend's house. The check is in the mail. Not that kind of lyre.
But here's where it gets interesting, where the walls reveal little details of daily life. They found graffiti. Yep, the Romans were tagging their walls like they were a public bathroom or a subway station. One image depicts what appears to be a crying woman with a Flavian-era hairstyle. Think big, poofy curls like she's auditioning for a toga soap opera. And get this, there's almost a complete Greek alphabet scratched in, the only one ever found in Roman Britain. Scholars think it was a checklist or a tally, but I'm betting it was some bored Roman teen practicing for their SATs, or perhaps a reference considering how much Greek the Latins actually used. They also found remnants of artists' workings, such as this etching of a flower scored into the plaster, which appears to be painter's guidelines created with the help of a compass, but the painters seem to have changed their minds and chose not to paint it. And very unhelpfully, they found a signature panel carved with the Latin word fecit, meaning has made this, but the artist's name is missing. Typical. I'm imagining some Roman Banksy smugly signing their masterpiece only for it to end up in a rubble pit. However, though the artist will remain forever anonymous, it's believed that due to that rare yellow paneling found at only a few sites in Britain, that the same company may have also been responsible for frescoes at Fishbourne, perhaps the most famous Roman palace in the country, which was built during the same time period. So what's the big deal in all this? Well, this fancy villa was either home to some loaded Roman family, or perhaps served as a high-end Airbnb to some wealthy travelers. It basically shows that Roman Londinium was not some backwater in the empire, but was actually stomping grounds to the rich and famous. At the same time, though, they sure were far from Kansas, Toto, which might explain some of that fake marble or imitation porphyry. And what's really cool, rather than just destroying these things nowadays, the developers incorporate them into their buildings and even market them to the public in that way, showing that people actually appreciate this sort of stuff. Heck, I remember once visiting a student dorm with a bit of London's old Roman wall built right into it, a major selling point for the place. Anyway, props to Han and his team at MOLA for reconstructing this mess and rescuing a piece of Roman Britain, and helping to enrich a major real estate developer. And finally, a quick note from Peru, where a 3,800-year-old city has been discovered right next to Corral, a 5,000-year-old city thought to be the oldest city in the Americas, which we visited as part of our series of the world's most underrated archaeology sites. This new site, by the way, is called Peñico, and it's literally just 26 kilometers or 16 miles down the road from Corral and about 200 kilometers north of the capital of Lima. Also in common with Corral, it was excavated by a team led by the same person, Dr. Ruth Shady, a giant of Peruvian archaeology who also served as director of the National Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, and now serves as director of the Corral Archaeological Zone, which has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. When I hear Dr. Shady, nicknames abound, like perhaps the Shady Lady, but that's actually something else in Nevada, or maybe she's known as Slim Shady on the street. Anyway, this site is comprised of 18 buildings, including a mysterious circular one. One building is said to have designs on the walls including pututos, musical instruments made of conch shells used for calling or signaling over long distances in many Andean societies. There were various finds, including clay sculptures of animal and human figures and necklaces made of beads and shells, but I couldn't find any images of these. Now, all of this is quite exciting because its location right by Corral, with some resemblance to the site, suggests it was the successor site belonging to the same group of people, and geographically it seems like an important link between the highlands and the coast. And those pututos link the site with the broader fabric of Andean cultures in Peru, situating it nicely within the cultural story of the region. Now, the announcement of the find was made in early July after 8 years of digging, during which it was obviously kept hush-hush to protect the site from antiquities traffickers. But you apparently can visit, as the site was used for the indigenous Inti Raymi festival held since the year 1412 in honor of the Inca sun god, and it is already found on some tourist websites, but I don't have much more information than that right now. A future site visit destination? I can only hope. Anyway, that's it for today's edition of Archaeology News. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time. Hey, if you like what you heard, give me that thumbs up below, hit that bell to subscribe, or if you want to support more independent archaeology content, consider contributing to my Patreon, where you can enjoy some exclusive members-only benefits and other goodies. Until the next dig.